This story begins with girls sitting in a classroom, where the teacher angrily picks out a few students. She calls them name by name and put them in one line. When the teacher asks a girl some questions, she is helped by her friend, whose name was Bobby. It does not take too long that she gets caught. On the other hand, we see lots of hustle at night with lots of bikes, girls, and boys. This is Bobby's parents, and this is her sister. This is Hugo Oliveira. He is very popular guy around the town and known for being brave and handsome. He is indulged into a competition with other guys. Hugo is the only one who wins the pull-up competition and makes his mates happy. Meanwhile, Bobby is greeted by her friends and they all start to dance and celebrate. Right after he is invited into a so-called rich people's party and they all decide to join. A guy from the party looks interested in Bobby, where he approach her and call her beautiful. He used to date her in the past and looking for forgiveness, but she does not seem too interested in him. All the gang decide to just come into the party and ruin the peace. Hugo's eye catches Bobby and her ex-boyfriend, which makes him smile. One of the guys from the party was stealing from a purse. Suddenly a girl arrives and caught him red-handed. She does not mind him taking 50 euros from her purse, but when he tells her to go on lunch, she gets angry at him and walks away. Hugo walks up to Bobby and proceeds to talk to her about the incident last time. He once called her by a bad name and made her uncomfortable. He exclaimed. He continued to call her the same name and she reacts by throwing the drink on him. When her ex laughs, Hugo ends up pushing him and breaking the table. He picks Bobby on his shoulders and start to walk outside. Hugo throws her inside the swimming pool, while his friends are fighting off guys inside the party. The guy ends up calling the cops and they leave, but not before Hugo tells her that they will bath together next time. Bobby also cannot escape because her dress is very revealing due to water. Later when Bobby and the guy were leaving, he reveals that it was all a setup by him to get to spend some time with her. But little did he know that this trick of his would not work, since all of them came back to destroy the guy's car. The guy ends up hitting one of their gang members, which was being followed by Hugo. He does not waste more time and starts to teach him a lesson. While Bobby starts calling people to get some help. An old man tried to help, but this does not go too well for himself, so they also leave. At last Bobby does not have any choice than to take it in her own hands, and she grabs Hugo from the back. Taking his chance, the guy take his car and leave Bobby behind. Hugo teases her for a good minute until she asks for a ride from an unknown guy, who looks very sketchy. Seeing this, Hugo shoo him away. He finally gives her a ride, and when she reaches home, she is met with her mother. He reveals what actually happened. Inside the car, her sister reveals that this is Hugo, also known as Hero around the town. Next day, Hugo wakes up in the morning and manages to steal some money from his brother, who also remind him of dinner with their dad before he leaves. Bobby friend Katina sees Hugo and his friend and calls him out for stealing her allowance. She complains to him for stealing the money to Hugo, but he could not care less. It looks like Katina is happy to go on lunch with the guy. Hugo also expects her to invite him to a nice place, but she is annoyed by him and leaves. Hugo later joins his father for dinner and gets to know that his brother is late and his mother is on trip with a friend. He goes inside his old room and starts to imagine all the past scenario. Hugo used to be a brilliant student, but something happened in his life that changed his personality and he moved with his brother. Bobby is upset that yesterday she dumped her and went away with the unknown guy. She thinks that he is poor, hence needed money, and she is again going out with him. At home, Bobby's parents are angry at her because one of the guys got really bad injuries. So they are reporting the guy who was with her last night. She reveals his name in the end. Her sister thinks since she revealed Hugo's name, she is in big trouble. Bobby gets a call from Katina's mother for some reason and decide to go on a local race, where she is present. Hogu arrives and again start to tease her. She reveals to him that she told her parents that he is the one to break the guy's nose at the party. To which his friend is afraid he might go to jail for it. But Hugo isn't worried, because he thinks when the day of the court will come, she will do anything to save him because she will be so crazy for him till that time will arrive. Right after they have a weird race in which they will have to put their girls on the back, meanwhile they will race. She sits on an unknown bike with another man. They race for quite a while and in the end one girl gets injured and all the cops come and arrest everyone. Before escaping from there, one cop is able to take their picture. She hides and waits for Hugo to come and he picks up later on, but not before giving her his jacket and change the clothes, while he watches her doing that. Later before leaving he tried to kiss her and ask if she will still tell about him in the court, and she again says yes, and slaps him. Hugo's brother sees his and Bobby's pictures in the newspaper, seems worried. Next day, Hugo sneaks through her room window and puts a big poster in her and his picture, so when she wake up it remind her of him. She is really happy to see this, and it seems like she is falling in love with him. She decide to see Hugo once again in a party. Bobby goes to the party and start to dance, where Hugo arrives right after and touches her hand. She arrives back at home after some time. Her mother caught her red-handed this time and gets to know that she drank a little. She gets slapped by her mother before leaving for bed. Bobby gets a call from Hugo, where he asks that he wants to see her. He asks what they will do tomorrow, to which she is willing to go anywhere. Next day, Bobby is waiting for Hugo outside of her school. He picks her up, which was being watched by her teacher. While they were cruising around, Hugo sees a man with his mother inside a car. He starts to recall the memory, where his mother left, and he later found out a man and her mother in a revealing position. He could not resist his anger and ended up beating the man brutally. He started to beat metal with his hands because he could not believe his mother could do something like this, and this was the beginning of the bad guy. Bobby hugs him and tries to calm him down. Later, he reveals that his father and brother believes that his mother is on a trip with her friend. There they have lots of romantic moments before they leave back for the town. She starts to spend more time with Hugo and his biker gang. Hugo's side girl comes and start to trouble Bobby a lot, and they both start to fight. Hugo and his mates comes in the way and Hugo takes her away. He assures her that he will never cheat on her. He takes her to a tattoo shop and she happily gets a tattoo. Hugo comes to his house and finds Bobby's father, where he wants to talk to Hugo about something. Hugo explains to Bobby's father that she is easing him up and there is nothing to worry about. When his brother tried to tell him that his actions will end him in jail, he accidentally acted a bit too aggressive. At school, the teacher explains that she can get expelled from the school because she signed the absent leave letter herself. Her mother picks her up and pays €8,000 fine to save her from being expelled. She tells everything to Hugo and he comes into her room through her window. He takes her into an empty pool at night and they have a great time. One day, Hugo goes to Bobby's school and talks to the teacher and tell her to stop and not give her any trouble in future. She asks her father a favor and he happily lets her go and decide to handle her mother. Hugo takes her somewhere far from the town. They go to an old house with a beautiful spot and there they have lots of quality time until the next morning. Next day again, when Bobby and Hugo were having quality moments, his friend arrives with all his friends and starts to party. Seeing this, Bobby got very angry and threw everyone away including Hugo. Hugo did something that amazed her with wonders and wrote on a building that he loves her. He later learns how to make good food, just for Bobby. He calls her and gets to know that her mother's ring had been missing, since their friends were at her house. This was enough to make him super angry. He goes up to his gang mates and starts to fight with the leader until the girl gives him the missing ring. Hugo goes back to Bobby's house and returns her the ring. Seeing him injured, she could not resist herself from taking care of his injuries. It is the court date and she is being asked of what happened that night. Before leaving with Hugo, Bobby scolds her mother and makes her cry. Hugo also assures her that he will change for her. Her mother decides to throw a party because Bobby is turning 18 soon. She also goes away to gift her teacher, but sees Pepita there and realizes that Hugo was the one who abducted Pepita earlier and she ran away from there. Soon Bobby arrives at Hugo's apartment and wants to talk. Bobby scolds him and decides to separate from him. It is the party day and Bobby is getting ready, meanwhile Hugo is still thinking about her. Hugo's friend is again going on the race, but Hugo is nowhere to be found. He finally arrives at Bobby's party and it seems like he had finally changed for her. She was stunned to see him change. They slowly comes closer and start to kiss each other. Meanwhile, his friend is on the verge to win the race and it does not take too long that his friend meets with an accident. They gets to know about his friend not so soon after. He just to know that Pollo is no more. Seeing this, Hugo starts to cry brutally. Bobby could not take this anymore and just want to leave. This ends in a disaster because he slaps Bobby before she leave. Hugo start to do pull-ups, thinking of all the things happening in his life. Meanwhile, Bobby was spending more time with her neighbor. She forgets him and deletes his number, while he is suffering from all the pain. One day Hugo was on a call and someone arrives at the apartment. It was Katina, who wished him happy Christmas. She gives him a gift of his and Paulo's picture, to which he starts to cry. They both have not met Bobby after the accident. She suggests him to forget about Bobby because she is going with this other guy. Later he goes to the same phone booth to talk to Bobby and calls. Her mother picks up the call, but does not give the phone to Bobby. He sees them going out in a car. He could not take it anymore and stay outside of his apartment and cry in agony. In the end we can see Hugo and his brother, where Hugo is telling his brother that he is going for work because he cannot stay here. He started to remember that at what point it all began, you realize that things only happen once. No matter how hard you try, you never feel the same. You will never feel 3 meters above the sky.